Someone in your life only calls you when they need something. They disappear when things are good, but suddenly remember you exist when they need help, money, or emotional support. You're not their friend. You're their emergency contact. You're not their priority. You're their backup plan. And the worst part? You keep answering because you think being available makes you valuable. But here's the brutal truth that Niccolò Machiavelli discovered centuries ago. The more available you are, the less valuable you become. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why being everyone's backup plan is destroying your worth, and more importantly, how to transform yourself from someone's last resort into their first priority using Machiavelli's forgotten priority system. This isn't about being mean or cutting people off. It's about understanding the dark psychology of human value and using it to finally get the respect you deserve. 500 years ago, Machiavelli watched princes fall and kingdoms crumble, not because of enemies, but because they made themselves too available to the wrong people. He documented everything, and what he discovered about human nature will shock you. People don't value what's always available. They value what they might lose. People don't respect what comes easy. They respect what requires effort. People don't prioritize those who prioritize them. They prioritize those who prioritize themselves. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I am nobody's backup plan. Let's begin your transformation from everyone's safety net to everyone's first choice. Number 1. The availability paradox. Here's something that will completely change how you see your relationships. The person who's always available is always taken for granted. Think about the most valuable things in life: diamonds, gold, time with successful people. What do they all have in common? Scarcity. They're not available to everyone, all the time, for any reason. Now think about yourself. When someone texts, you respond immediately. When someone needs help, you drop everything. When someone wants to hang out last minute, you cancel your plans. You think you're being a good friend, a good person, a good partner. But you're actually training people to see you as their convenience store. Open 24/7, always stocked, never special. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities." What he meant was this: people will always choose the path of least resistance. If you're always the easiest option, you'll always be the last resort. Not because people are evil, but because human psychology works on efficiency. Why put effort into maintaining a relationship with someone who requires no effort? But here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you become less available, something psychological shifts. People start wondering what you're doing, who you're with, why you're not responding immediately. Suddenly, you're not furniture in their life anymore. You're a person with value, with options, with priorities that might not include them. I learned this the hard way. I had a friend who only called when she needed something. Career advice when she was struggling. Emotional support when relationships ended. Money when times were tough. I always answered. I always helped. I thought I was being supportive. Then one day, I couldn't help. I was dealing with my own crisis. Her response? She got angry. Not concerned about what I was going through, but angry that I wasn't available. That's when I realized I wasn't her friend. I was her service provider. And service providers who don't provide service get replaced. The availability paradox works like this. The more available you make yourself, the less people value your availability. The more you sacrifice for others, the less they appreciate your sacrifice. The more you prioritize them, the less they prioritize you. This isn't cynicism. It's psychology. Humans are wired to value what's scarce and dismiss what's abundant. When you're always available, you become abundant in their life. When you become selective with your availability, you become scarce. And scarcity creates value. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My time is valuable. Number 2. The psychology of being chosen. Last, let me tell you about the most painful pattern in human relationships. You're the friend they call after everyone else said no. You're the date they text when their first choice canceled. You're the employee they promote only when nobody else wants the position. You're never plan A. You're always plan B, C, or D. This pattern doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you've unconsciously positioned yourself as the safe option, the fallback plan, the one who'll always say yes. People aren't choosing you last to hurt you. They're choosing you last because you've taught them that's acceptable. Machiavelli observed, men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. But he wasn't saying humans are inherently evil. He was saying humans are inherently self-interested. They'll naturally test boundaries to see what they can get away with. And if you don't enforce boundaries, they'll assume you don't have any. Think about this for a moment. When someone invites you to something last minute, what are they really saying? They're saying, "Everyone else was busy, so I thought of you." When someone only texts you late at night, what are they communicating? "You're not worth my prime time, but you'll do for now." When someone only includes you when they need something, what's the message? You're not valuable for who you are, only for what you provide. The psychology behind this is brutal but simple. Humans categorize relationships into priorities. First tier, people they actively pursue and invest in. Second tier, people they maintain regular contact with. Third tier, people they keep around for convenience. If you're always accepting last-minute invitations, responding to late-night texts, and helping without reciprocation, you're volunteering for tier 3. But here's what most people don't understand. You can't convince someone to move you to a higher tier. You have to move yourself there by changing your behavior, not by asking for better treatment. I once had a colleague who would only invite me to meetings when he needed someone to agree with him. Never for strategic discussions. Never for important decisions. Just when he needed a yes man. For months, I attended, thinking I was being a team player. Then I started declining. "Sorry, I'm booked. Can't make it." Prior commitment. Something interesting happened. He started inviting me earlier. He started asking my opinion before meetings. He started treating me like someone whose presence mattered, not just someone who filled a seat. Why? Because scarcity created value. My absence made my presence valuable. The harsh truth is this: being chosen last isn't about your worth. It's about your positioning. You've positioned yourself as the person who's always available, always accommodating, always willing to accept scraps. And people will give you exactly what you're willing to accept. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I deserve to be plan A. Number 3, the helper's curse. Here's the most counterintuitive truth you'll hear today. The more you help people, the less they respect you. I know that sounds wrong. We're taught that helping others builds gratitude, loyalty, and respect. But Machiavelli discovered something darker about human nature. Excessive helpfulness breeds contempt, not appreciation. Let me explain the psychology behind this curse. When you help someone once, they're grateful. When you help them twice, they're appreciative. When you help them 5 times, they expect it. When you help them 10 times, they feel entitled to it. And when you finally can't or won't help, they're not disappointed. They're angry. You've transformed from their hero to their villain, not because you stopped helping, but because you trained them to depend on your help. Machiavelli wrote, "Benefits should be conferred gradually so that they may be better appreciated." He understood that constant giving destroys gratitude. It's like taste buds adapting to sugar. The first bite of cake is amazing. The 10th bite is ordinary. The 100th bite makes you sick. But here's the real tragedy of the helper's curse. The people you help most often value you least. Think about it. Who do you respect more? The person who's always available to help you, or the person whose help is rare and valuable? Who do you appreciate more? The friend who always says yes, or the friend who sometimes says no? Who do you value more? The mentor who gives you unlimited time, or the mentor who gives you limited but powerful guidance? The helper's curse operates on 3 psychological levels. First, devaluation through abundance. When your help is always available, it becomes worthless. Like water in a rainy city versus water in a desert. Same water, different value, determined entirely by scarcity. Second, competence assumption reversal. When you're always helping others, people start believing you have nothing better to do. They assume successful, important people wouldn't have time to constantly help. So your helpfulness actually signals low status. Third, the burden of expectation. Once you establish yourself as the helper, any boundary you set feels like betrayal. People don't remember the 100 times you helped. They remember the 1 time you didn't. I learned this lesson painfully. For years, I was the go-to person in my family for everything. Tech support, moving help, financial assistance, emotional support. I thought I was being the good son, the reliable brother. But then I noticed something disturbing. The more I helped, the less my family engaged with me for anything else. I wasn't invited to casual dinners, just crisis meetings. I wasn't called to share good news, just to solve problems. I had become a service, not a person. So I started what I call strategic unavailability. Not to be cruel, but to reset expectations. I can't help with that. Try YouTube for that tech issue. I'm not available that day. The backlash was immediate. I was called selfish, uncaring, changed. But then something interesting happened. They started solving their own problems. They started respecting my time. They started inviting me to things that weren't about getting help. The helper's curse is real, and it's destroying your relationships. Every time you automatically say yes to helping, you're training people to see you as a resource, not a person. Every time you drop everything to assist others, you're communicating that your time, goals, and needs don't matter. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My help is a gift, not an obligation. Number 4, the respect recession. Every time you accept disrespect, you lose value. Not just in that person's eyes, but in your own. It's like inflation with your self-worth. Each small acceptance of poor treatment devalues your entire personal currency. This is what I call the respect recession, and it's probably happening to you right now without you even realizing it. Machiavelli understood this concept deeply. He wrote, "Men have less scruple in offending one who is beloved than one who is feared." He wasn't advocating for tyranny. He was observing that humans naturally push boundaries with those who don't enforce them. Think about the small disrespects you accept daily. Someone interrupts you mid-sentence, and you stop talking. Someone cancels plans last minute, and you say no problem. Someone takes credit for your idea, and you stay silent. Someone makes a joke at your expense, and you laugh along. Each incident seems minor, forgettable, but your subconscious keeps score. And worse, other people's subconscious keeps score too. Here's the psychological mechanism that's destroying your respect. Every time you accept disrespect, you train 3 things simultaneously. First, you train the disrespecter that their behavior is acceptable. Second, you train observers that you're someone who accepts poor treatment. Third, and most dangerously, you train yourself that you deserve disrespect. The respect recession happens gradually, then suddenly. It starts with small compromises. They're 5 minutes late, you don't mention it. Next time they're 10 minutes late. Then 20. Then they stop apologizing. Then they get annoyed if you mention it. What started as flexibility became expectation, became entitlement. I watched this happen to a brilliant colleague. She was talented, hardworking, innovative. But she had one fatal flaw. She never pushed back. When others interrupted her in meetings, she yielded the floor. When her ideas were stolen, she said nothing. When she was excluded from important decisions, she accepted it. Over 2 years, I watched her transform from a respected professional to office furniture. Not because her work declined, but because her acceptance of disrespect trained everyone, including herself, that she didn't matter. The saddest part? When she finally tried to assert herself, nobody took her seriously. She had trained them too well. The respect recession follows predictable stages. Stage 1, testing. Someone disrespects you slightly to see how you respond. Stage 2, normalization. Your acceptance makes the disrespect feel normal. Stage 3, escalation. The disrespect increases in frequency and severity. Stage 4, expectation. Respect becomes unusual. Disrespect becomes standard. Stage 5, resentment. You're angry but feel powerless to change the dynamic. Breaking the respect recession requires what Machiavelli called spectacular correction. One powerful stand that resets all expectations. Not aggression, not revenge, but a clear, unmistakable demonstration that the old dynamic is dead. When someone interrupts you, "I wasn't finished speaking." When someone cancels last minute, "That doesn't work for me anymore." When someone takes credit, "Actually, that was my idea from Tuesday's email." When someone jokes at your expense, "That's not funny to me." Simple phrases, but revolutionary in their effect, because they break the pattern everyone has gotten comfortable with. The respect recession is reversible, but only through action, not words. You can't talk your way into respect. You can't explain why you deserve better treatment. You have to demonstrate through consistent boundary enforcement that the old you, the one who accepted disrespect, no longer exists. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I teach people how to treat me. Number 5, strategic distance creates magnetic pull. The people you chase run away. The people you run from chase you. This isn't a game, it's gravity. Emotional gravity. And Machiavelli understood this force better than any psychologist of his time or ours. He knew that distance doesn't separate people, it creates magnetic pull. Here's what nobody tells you about relationships. The person who cares less controls more. Not because caring is weakness, but because desperation is repulsive. When you're always available, always eager, always ready, you create emotional pressure that pushes people away. When you create strategic distance, you create emotional vacuum that pulls people in. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are more ready to offend one who desires to be loved than one who lets himself be feared." But let me translate this for modern relationships. People respect those who don't need them more than those who desperately want them. Think about your own attractions and relationships. Who do you think about more? The person who texts you constantly or the person who texts you occasionally? Who do you value more? The friend who's always free or the friend you have to schedule weeks in advance? Who intrigues you more? The person who shares everything or the person who remains partially mysterious? Strategic distance isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about understanding that humans value what requires effort. When you're too accessible, you remove the effort, and with it, the value. I discovered this principle accidentally. I had a friend group that I was always trying to organize. Planning dinners, suggesting activities, initiating conversations. I thought I was being the glue that held us together. Then I got busy with a project and stopped initiating for 2 months. Not deliberately, just naturally. What happened shocked me. Suddenly, they were reaching out, planning things, asking if I was okay, inviting me to events. My absence had created more connection than my presence ever did. My distance had made me valuable in a way my availability never could. The psychology works like this. When you're always present, people stop seeing you. You become background noise, furniture, assumed and ignored. When you create distance, you become noticeable. Your absence creates a shape that reminds people of your value. But here's the crucial distinction. Strategic distance isn't about punishment or manipulation. It's about creating space for people to choose you, rather than forcing yourself into their space. Strategic distance operates on 3 levels. Physical distance, not always being physically available for every event, meeting, or gathering. Your presence becomes an occasion, not an assumption. Emotional distance, not sharing every thought, feeling, and experience. Your inner world becomes intriguing, not overwhelming. Temporal distance, not responding immediately to every communication. Your attention becomes valuable, not guaranteed. When you create strategic distance, something paradoxical happens. People start working to close that distance. They start investing effort to reach you. They start valuing the connection because now it requires investment. But here's the warning. This only works if you're creating distance from abundance, not from spite. If you're pulling away to punish or manipulate, people sense it and retreat further. If you're creating space to focus on your own growth while remaining open to genuine connection, people sense that too and move closer. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My absence makes my presence valuable. Number 6. The priority reversal protocol. For years, you've had your priorities backwards. You put everyone else first and yourself last. You thought this made you good, noble, selfless. But Machiavelli discovered something shocking. The people who put themselves last get treated last. The people who put themselves first get treated first. Not because selfishness wins, but because self-respect is contagious. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you sacrifice your needs for someone else's wants, you teach them that you matter less than they do. Every time you cancel your plans for their emergency, you communicate that your life is less important. Every time you prioritize their comfort over your growth, you demonstrate that you're expendable. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." When you appear to be someone who doesn't prioritize yourself, everyone treats you like someone who doesn't matter. They're not being cruel, they're following your lead. The priority reversal protocol changes everything. Instead of organizing your life around others' needs, you organize it around your own growth, then fit others in where appropriate. Instead of being available by default, you're busy by default and available by choice. Instead of saying yes automatically, you say let me check automatically. This isn't about becoming selfish or uncaring. It's about understanding that you can't pour from an empty cup, and you've been trying to serve others while your cup has been bone dry for years. Think about airline safety instructions. Put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. Why? Because if you pass out trying to help everyone else, you become useless to everyone, including yourself. Life works the same way. The priority reversal protocol has 3 phases. Phase 1, the audit. List everyone you regularly help, support, or prioritize. Next to each name, write what they do for you. Be honest. You'll likely discover you're in several one-way relationships. Phase 2, the reversal. For the next 30 days, before saying yes to any request, ask yourself, would this person do this for me? If the answer is no or probably not, your answer should be no too. Phase 3, the rebalance. Start investing your time and energy in proportion to what you receive. Not transaction by transaction, but pattern by pattern. Those who invest in you get your investment. Those who don't. I implemented this protocol 2 years ago, and the results were shocking. First, panic. People who were used to my automatic yes couldn't understand my new, I'll have to check. They called me selfish, changed, distant. But I held firm. Then, natural selection. The users, the takers, the energy vampires, they all disappeared. They found new suppliers for what they needed. But the real friends, the genuine connections, they adapted. They started asking about my needs too. They started offering help, not just requesting it. Finally, elevation. My relationships transformed from obligation to choice, from burden to joy, from drain to exchange. I had fewer friends, but deeper friendships. Less activity, but more meaning. Fewer obligations, but more genuine connections. The priority reversal protocol isn't about keeping score or being transactional. It's about recognizing that every relationship should involve mutual investment. When you're the only one investing, you're not in a relationship. You're in a service contract where you're the service. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I prioritize those who prioritize me. Number 7, the invisible value system. Right now, people are calculating your value using a system you don't even know exists. Every interaction, every response, every boundary you set or don't set, it all feeds into their subconscious algorithm that determines how much you're worth to them. Machiavelli understood this invisible value system, and he knew that most people were losing points without realizing it. Here's how the system works. Every time you respond immediately to a text, -1 point. Every time you take hours or days to respond, +2 points. Every time you drop everything to help, -3 points. Every time you say, I can't, I have plans, +5 points. Every time you accept last-minute plans, -5 points. Every time you require advance notice, +10 points. This isn't a conscious process. People aren't sitting there with scorecards, but their subconscious is constantly calculating. How much effort does this person require? How much do I have to invest to maintain their attention? How replaceable are they? Machiavelli observed, men are so false that they will always deceive you unless they are kept honest by constraint. The constraint he's talking about isn't force. It's the natural constraint created by scarcity and standards. When you have standards, people constrain their behavior to meet them. When you don't, they default to their lowest effort. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was brilliant, kind, successful, but she couldn't understand why people treated her like she didn't matter. She was everyone's therapist, but no one checked on her mental health. She was everyone's emergency contact, but no one made her a priority. She gave everything and received crumbs. Then she learned about the invisible value system and realized she'd been hemorrhaging points for years. Instant responses, constant availability, zero boundaries. She was teaching people she was worthless while wondering why they treated her that way. She started simple. Phone on silent after 8 p.m. Emails answered within 24 to 48 hours, not minutes. Social invitations required 3 days' notice. Help requests got, I'll see what I can do, instead of automatic yes. The transformation was remarkable. The same people who used to text her at midnight with problems started scheduling calls in advance. The same friends who canceled on her constantly started confirming plans days ahead. The same family members who only called during crises started checking in just to chat. Nothing about Sarah changed except her behavior within the invisible value system. But that changed everything about how others saw and treated her. The invisible value system has 5 key metrics. Response time. Slower responses signal higher value. Not rudely slow, strategically slow. Availability. Less availability signals more demand for your time. Standards. Clear standards signal self-respect. Consistency. Consistent boundaries signal reliability and strength. Investment ratio. Requiring equal or greater investment signals worthiness. Here's the crucial point. You can't tell people you're valuable. You have to behave in ways that signal value within their subconscious system. Words are conscious, actions are subconscious, and the subconscious always wins. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My behavior teaches my value. Number 8. The rarity principle. The rarest things in life command the highest value. Diamonds, gold, genuine connection, authentic people who don't need anything from you. Machiavelli understood that in human relationships, the same principle applies. The rarer you make yourself, the more valuable you become. But here's what most people get wrong about rarity. They think it means being distant, cold, or unavailable. That's not rarity. That's absence. True rarity means being selective about where you invest your presence, making your attention a gift rather than a given, being fully present when you choose to be there. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so eager to please that they forget to preserve." You've been so eager to please others that you've forgotten to preserve your own value. You've made yourself common by being commonly available. Think about the most valuable relationships in your life. They're probably not with people you see every day. They're with people whose time is precious, whose attention feels special, whose presence is an event. Not because they're better than others, but because they've made themselves rare. The rarity principle operates on a paradox. The more you try to be everywhere, the less you matter anywhere. The more you try to be everything to everyone, the less you are to anyone. The more available you make yourself, the less people value your availability. I learned this from a mentor who was impossible to reach. Emails took weeks. Meetings were scheduled months out. Phone calls were 15 minutes maximum. At first, I was frustrated. Didn't he realize I needed his guidance? Then I understood. His rarity made every interaction count. I prepared for our meetings like exams. I made every question count. I implemented his advice immediately because I knew I wouldn't get another chance soon. His scarcity created my urgency, my focus, my results. Compare that to advisors who were always available. I'd waste their time with unformed thoughts. I'd ask the same questions repeatedly. I'd ignore their advice because I knew I could always get more. Their abundance created my complacency. The rarity principle has 3 applications. Temporal rarity. Your time becomes rare. Not artificially scarce, but genuinely valuable because you're investing it in your own growth. Emotional rarity. Your emotional labor becomes rare. You stop being everyone's therapist, cheerleader, and support system. Physical rarity. Your presence becomes rare. You're not at every gathering, every event, every coffee date. But here's the key. Rarity must come from abundance, not scarcity. You're not rare because you have nothing to give. You're rare because you're selective about where you give it. You're not unavailable because you're playing games. You're unavailable because you're building something meaningful. When you embrace the rarity principle, your relationships transform. Instead of quantity, you get quality. Instead of being needed, you're wanted. Instead of being convenient, you're treasured. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am rare and valuable. Number 9, the boundary revolution. Every boundary you don't set is a piece of your soul you give away. Every time you don't speak up, stand up, or show up for yourself, you shrink a little more. Machiavelli knew that boundaries weren't walls that keep people out. They're foundations that keep you standing. Most people think boundaries are mean, selfish, or unnecessary. They think love means no boundaries. Friendship means no limits. Family means no rules. But that thinking is exactly why they're exhausted, resentful, and disrespected. Boundaries aren't the opposite of love. They're the foundation of it. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." Replace ruler with person and men with relationships. The quality of people around you directly reflects the quality of your boundaries. Here's the truth that will set you free. Every toxic person in your life walked through a door you left open. Every energy vampire sucking you dry was invited in by your lack of boundaries. Every disrespectful behavior you endure was permitted by your previous acceptance of it. But here's the empowering flip side. Every boundary you set is a declaration of your worth. Every no is a yes to yourself. Every line you draw is a step toward freedom. The boundary revolution starts with understanding that boundaries aren't requests, they're facts. You don't ask people to respect your boundaries. You enforce them. You don't negotiate your standards. You maintain them. You don't explain your limits. You implement them. I started my boundary revolution with a simple rule: no phone calls after 9 p.m. unless someone is dying. The pushback was immediate. It's just a quick question. I really need to talk. You're being ridiculous. But I held firm. Phone on silent. Calls returned the next day. Within a month, something magical happened. People started texting, "Can we talk tomorrow?" They started respecting my evening time. They started solving their own problems instead of calling me immediately. My boundary didn't push people away. It trained them to respect my space. The boundary revolution has 5 pillars. Time boundaries. Your time is not public property. Office hours apply to your personal life too. Emotional boundaries. You're not responsible for everyone's feelings. Their emotions are their responsibility. Physical boundaries. Your space, your rules. Whether it's your home, your car, or your personal bubble. Mental boundaries. You don't have to engage with every opinion, argument, or drama presented to you. Resource boundaries. Your money, energy, and resources are yours to allocate, not theirs to assume. Here's what happens when you start the boundary revolution. First, chaos. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist, rebel, and rage. They'll call you selfish, changed, difficult. This is the storm before the calm. Then, clarity. The users leave. The takers retreat. The vampires find new victims. Your circle gets smaller but stronger. Your relationships become fewer but deeper. Finally, peace. The constant drain stops. The resentment fades. The exhaustion lifts. You have energy because you're not giving it all away. You have joy because you're not carrying everyone else's burdens. You have respect because you demanded it through your boundaries. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My boundaries are non-negotiable. The final transformation. You've just learned the 9 principles of Machiavelli's priority system. But knowledge without action is worthless. Knowing why your everyone's backup plan won't change anything unless you do something about it. Understanding the psychology won't shift the dynamic unless you shift your behavior. Here's what most people will do with this information. Nothing. They'll think, "That's interesting." Maybe share the video, possibly remember a point or two, but they won't actually change. They'll keep being everyone's backup plan while knowing exactly why it's happening. That's the tragedy of knowledge without courage. But some of you, maybe just a few, will do something different. You'll start with one boundary, one no, one moment of putting yourself first. It will feel wrong, selfish, scary. People will react badly. You'll want to apologize, explain, retreat. Don't, because here's what Machiavelli knew that most people never learn. Respect is taken, not given. Value is demonstrated, not requested. Priority is claimed, not hoped for. You don't become someone's priority by asking. You become it by being your own priority first. The transformation from backup plan to first choice isn't about becoming mean, selfish, or uncaring. It's about recognizing that you've been mean to yourself, selfish with your self-neglect, and uncaring about your own worth. It's about understanding that every time you prioritize someone who doesn't prioritize you, you're not being noble, you're being negligent to yourself. Remember this. The people who truly deserve you won't be offended by your boundaries. They'll respect them. The ones who genuinely care won't be threatened by your standards. They'll rise to meet them. The relationships worth having won't crumble when you start valuing yourself. They'll strengthen. You're not losing people by setting boundaries. You're revealing who was real and who was using you. You're not pushing people away by having standards. You're filtering out those who don't deserve your energy. You're not becoming difficult by prioritizing yourself. You're becoming someone worth prioritizing. Machiavelli's greatest insight wasn't about power over others. It was about power over yourself. The power to say no. The power to choose yourself. The power to demand what you deserve. The power to stop being everyone's backup plan and start being your own first choice. From this moment forward, you have a choice. Continue being everyone's safety net, emergency contact, and last resort. Or start being selective, valuable, and prioritized. Keep giving yourself away for free. Or start treating yourself like the rare and valuable person you actually are. The old you, the one who was everyone's backup plan, that person served their purpose. They taught you what doesn't work. They showed you the cost of having no boundaries. They demonstrated the price of prioritizing everyone except yourself. Thank them, then let them go. The new you, the one who just learned these 9 principles, this person has different standards, different boundaries, different expectations. This person doesn't chase respect, they command it. They don't beg for priority, they claim it. They don't hope for value, they demonstrate it. If this video opened your eyes to why you've been everyone's backup plan, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And subscribe to this channel because your transformation is just beginning, and you need every tool, strategy, and insight to make it permanent. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am my first priority. Remember, in a world full of people willing to accept crumbs, be someone who demands the whole meal. In a sea of backup plans, be someone's only option. In a culture of constant availability, be rare and valuable. You're not here to be convenient. You're here to be exceptional. Not everyone will understand your transformation. Not everyone will support your boundaries. Not everyone will respect your standards. But the right ones will. And those are the only ones who matter. Stop being everyone's backup plan. Start being your own first choice. The world doesn't need another doormat. It needs someone who knows their worth and refuses to settle for less. Your priority revolution starts now.